everyone. Welcome to She Knows Arsenal. This is your player ratings for Arsenal. Brentford 0, Arsenal 1. Arsenal are now top of the league. And Kai Havertz scored the winning goal in a very ugly win at the G-Tech Community Stadium. Okay? You guys know the drill. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, all those types of things. And get into the chat and let me know what you guys are thinking and feeling off of the back of that win. Listen, we have to have a conversation. Because, child, that was like such a typical Arsenal thing to do, which is like wait until the 90th something minute to score a goal. And it comes from an unlikely source. And I was screaming the entire game, like, can somebody please just run to the back post? There were like several balls that went across the goal to the back post, and like nobody from Arsenal ever runs there until today. Kai Havertz was there and he put the ball in the back of the net. I am so happy for him. And I said when he was playing left back for Germany and he scored that goal and people were like, who cares? I'm like, how can you say who cares? This is a player that we spent 65 million pounds on to play in a position that doesn't necessarily suit him, who's on like the lowest ebb he's ever been on. And you guys don't think that him scoring a goal for his national team means anything for Arsenal. Of course it does. Every time that you have a good performance, there's the opportunity for that confidence to translate over to Arsenal. And for Arsenal, that is so important. I thought it was really weird that people were trying to make it seem like that goal didn't mean anything. And boom, just like that, he scores the winning goal in a game that's really important for Arsenal because we have a clean sheet, 3 points, top of the table, took advantage of the draw earlier from Manchester City and Liverpool and went to a difficult away ground and got the points. Massive result for Arsenal. Was it the perfect performance? Absolutely not. I am worried about the frequency in which we have these conversations around the attack. I think when you start to see different pieces in and out of the team, but you kind of get the same results, it becomes less about personnel and more about the system. Why doesn't the system allow for our players to create more chances? Why are eights not on the ball enough? Why do we only create one chance? Why is it that we're hoofing the ball into the box? Why don't we create those triangles on the edges of the box? Why aren't those things happening anymore? Those are definitely questions that I feel like will come up in these player ratings. But the most important thing is always the points. And I do get frustrated when so when they were talking about how Manchester United were not playing well, and I heard a commentator say, well, they're still getting the results, and that's what good teams do. And even when you're not playing well, you're going through a difficult time, you get the points. Why is that never leveraged at Arsenal? Why is that never like the narrative around Arsenal? Like, Arsenal have not played to the best of their ability so far this season. I think we can all say that from an attacking sense, Arsenal have not been maybe as potent as they were last season in terms of open play. You know, we've figured out ways to score otherwise, but in open play, we haven't created as many chances and we haven't scored as many goals. But defensively, we've been really good. But most importantly, Arsenal have figured out ways to get enough points to be top of the league. Like, why is it never us that gets the stuff of champions? Why don't we get that? Like, it really annoys me. But that is what Arsenal did today. I think some players had heavy legs from international duty. I don't know. Listen, if you guys watch the Liverpool Man City game, even for some players in the Newcastle game as well against Chelsea, you'll see that some of the players that went to South America were like dead. You know, so I wasn't surprised by kind of what I saw from Gabriel Jesus. I thought some of the commentary around him not scoring goals and how vicious the Brazilian media can be around their players, that him and many other Brazilian players would come back from international duty on a lower ebb. So I wasn't really surprised. I actually felt as though Trossard should have just started through the middle and give Gabriel Jesus this one day off to like get his legs back together and stuff like that. And then you saw other players where it was kind of like, okay, what's going on? Like, we know Odegaard's coming back off of injury, but he didn't necessarily look fresh. Saliba didn't look that fresh. Tomiyasu definitely didn't look fresh. It was a strange watch. You know, I don't think it was all international duty. I think some of the individual performances just weren't great. I think there were a lot of things conspiring against us today from the individual performances to the system to the international duty to the pressure to win the game, that like all of that conspired together to create a performance that was probably our worst of the season. I think that was worse than Chelsea away, and by a big margin. I think that was one of our worst performances. It was our worst performance, but we got the points. And you guys will let me know whether or not you're worried about how we look as an attacking force. But I do want to point out some things that I feel like cannot go unspoken about. Zinchenko makes a mistake later on in the match, gives away the ball, is on the end of the block that keeps us from going down 1-0. Ramsdale makes a mistake and gives the ball away in a bad position in possession, and Declan Rice is on the line to save that goal. There were some really good defensive interventions, especially towards the end of the match. From a defensive standpoint and that level of performance, we have been good all season. I mean, the last-ditch tackles, the blocks, you remember Declan Rice's goal line clearance against Manchester City. From that perspective, Arsenal have been outstanding. We cannot if we're gonna, if we're gonna talk about the attack and be like talking about that all day long, fair enough. But we cannot act like this team from a defensive standpoint have not improved considerably, in my opinion. I think defensively, that's another clean sheet. And you can say that, oh, Brentford didn't do this, Brentford didn't do that. But if Declan Rice is not on that line, doesn't have that up here to make sure that he's on that line, then we're cooked, And so, and we really nullified Brentford into basically nothing. If we didn't give them the opportunity, they didn't have one. They never really got into like a groove of like really testing us that much. Ramsdale didn't have much to do. So defensively, Arsenal are outstanding. Attack-wise, Arsenal are stinky. And so maybe there's a balance there that needs to be looked at, because again, no matter who's up there, whether it's Nketiah, whether it's Jesus, whether it's Trossard, whether it's Jorginho, Rice, and Odegaard, whether it's Havertz, Emile, and Rice, no matter what combination of the front six that you have, Arsenal are not figuring out how to gain access to central spaces and create chances at volume. And that is making it more difficult because Arsenal are playing on the margins. The margins are kind of going in our favor, but we saw when we played against Newcastle, the margins didn't go in our favor. So it's something that needs to be looked at. That's mostly what my issues are with today. Is I think it's systematic. I don't necessarily feel like the personnel are that bad. You cannot tell me that Trossard and Odegaard and Saka and Martinelli and Jesus cannot create chances more than one. But I think that getting the points is the most important thing. Arsenal, there's a whole bunch of stuff going on there. And then there also was a goal called back for offside, where I think Jesus should score. If Jesus scores that wide open header, then we're not even dealing with the offside thing, are we? So we had a couple of different things going on there. Looking at it back, looking at the angles, it's like, oh, it doesn't look offside here, but it is what it is. Arsenal should have created more than one chance in that first half. It took us 40 minutes to get going. The first half was basically a throwaway. The second half, it felt like we got worse. So tons to talk about from an individual perspective, but I do want to get your guys' thoughts on the overall performance and how you're feeling about, is it stuff of champions or are we getting away with it? I feel like that's kind of what we're talking about here. Lucas says, as bad as we were, for some reason I was calm. P-Way says, Gabriel Jesus is not good enough. Jay says, what a boring ass game. Thank God for Saka hitting Kai. All of our games have been pretty boring. Like I would say beyond the 3-2-2s that we had, Chelsea, Spurs, and Fulham, all of our games have been really boring. Nottingham Forest, snooze fest. Crystal Palace 1-0, snooze fest. Everton 1-0, snooze fest. Manchester City, snooze fest. All of our games have been boring. I do think that last season, we got used to being like the game of the season. Every single game was like the game of the season. Back, forth. We score, we respond. I think Arteta does want to take a little bit of that out of our game. But I think we've taken so much out that we're very predictable in attack, and we're unwilling to take risks in the final third. And so our players are going backwards and sideways and overthinking everything. And so those natural instincts are kind of gone. MD Agency says we need a tall striker, and Saka and Martinelli need to do more take-ons. I have a feeling that there's no, I don't think Arsenal are not attacking the fullback because they don't want to. I think it's because Arteta tells them what to do and what the tactics are. Because when we were playing against Sevilla, Martinelli said after the game, after he cooked that fullback, that Arteta had told him to continuously go after them, and Saka as well. So I would imagine that because we're playing against deeper blocks in the Premier League, that Arteta is not telling them to take on their fullback. He's telling them to recycle possession, because we know Saka and Martinelli can get past their attackers, but are they're fullbacks, but they're not doing it. Aman says Rice, Saliba, Gabriel, and Zinchenko were our best players today, mostly defenders. Yeah. Crispy says Ramsdale started off very shaky. I'm not surprised at that. There's so much pressure on him to have this one game to not even change Mikel Arteta's mind, but just everybody is watching to see if he's going to be way better than Raya so that they can start the, oh my God, he made a mistake with Raya, or for him to have the game that he had today, at least at the beginning in those first couple of minutes, and say, oh my gosh, look at the mess that Mikel Arteta has made by having these goalkeepers. Look at Ramsdale now. He's so shaky. He's so this, he's so that. He did. I'm not surprised that he was the way that he was. It's good that we got the clean sheet, and that he kind of straightened up towards the end of the game. But yeah, I'm really not surprised, to be honest. John P says, I have come around to the idea of buying a big man striker because all of these low blocks, thought we had enough, but Tony type would really help. MD Agency says the buildup from the back was the problem today. What's the problem every other day then? It's I feel like we've seen this in every single game. It just depends on what opposition we're playing against. If we're playing against better opposition, when we're playing against better opposition, it's kind of okay, well, they open up sometimes, so then we get more opportunities. But we played against these deep blocks pretty much all season. And no matter who's there, it's the same. It's kind of the same thing. We haven't really cut through teams at all this season. And one thing that's starting to become more frustrating, I think, is that on the attack, I find that players are getting in each other's way and that there's no synergy between our players whatsoever. There were so many times where I felt like Saka and Odegaard were in each other's way. Tomiyasu was in the wrong place, not in the right spot. Saka is running into Nketiah. Trossard doesn't know where he's supposed to be. It's remember how we started off last season? It was everybody knew where to be, and it was almost like they played together for a million years. This season just feels like they've never played with each other before. And that cannot be the case because the front four was the front four that we're used to. And the longer the season goes, I do think that we're finding that those two, mainstays in our midfield were pretty foundational to a lot of the things that we're doing. But I still feel like it's systematic. I'm not really buying the idea that these players can't create chances. These players can't figure out how to pass between the lines. These players can't move and create triangles on the edges of the box. I'm not really, I don't really think it's the quality of the players that we have. I think it's the way that the system works to keep us from being exposed on the other end. But when you're not willing to take risks, that's all that the best attacking sides are the ones that take the biggest risks. One thing that you see with Liverpool all the time, they take loads of risks. But how many times have you watched Liverpool turn a really dangerous situation that they have in their box into a dangerous opportunity in the opposition's box? I think when you're not willing to take risks, you get kind of what we have. Really good defensive solidity, because nobody moves out of their positions. Nobody takes the risk. Everybody wants to pass backwards and sideways to keep possession. And it keeps you from getting scored against. But, what are you going to do? How are you going to score goals? Let's see. MD Agency says, I think the Brazilian forwards had a bad game because of the international fixture they played maybe affect them. I kind of agree with that as well. Aman says, we need to find a way to get our wingers more central instead of hugging the touchline. Have you noticed how nobody is near each other? I'm watching this game and I'm just seeing so many players so far away from each other that their only option is to cross it into the box, and nobody makes runs in the box. They're just all, like, none of them have that like natural instinct to like get on the end of crosses. So if it's the case, like somebody else was saying, that we're just kind of gonna hoof the ball into the box and hope for the best and get corners, then Arsenal need to have a different type of striker in there. That's for sure. The opportunity that Gabriel Jesus gets that ends up being Trossard's offside goal is one that a striker should be putting away first time. It shouldn't have gotten to Trossard. It should have been in the back of the net. He was wide open with nobody on him. And so, yeah, it's really one of those. John P says, our system is slow and controlled. To score a lot more, it needs to be fast and out of control. But we are top. So there is that. Exactly. We're top of the league. So it's kind of like, listen. EW says, this is a new season, different tactics, system is in instructions. No need to start taking risks. We are top of the league. Very, very, very good point. See, Walter says, me neither. It confused me a little. I guess he just wanted to take the spotlight off Rambo. Don't know what you guys are talking about. Patrick says, losing Party is tough because he can break lines from deep with his passing and ball manipulation. Wish he would be fit. Trini Gunner says, this was likely Aaron Ramsdale's testimonial match. Can we talk about this for a second? Who's actually thinking that this game would have changed Aaron Ramsdale's career at Arsenal? Was there anybody? I want you to get in the comment section, get in the chat. Let me know, yes or no. Did you think that a performance against Brentford today, if it were really, really good, would have changed Arteta's mind on Ramsdale? Who thought that? I saw a lot of that going around at the beginning of the game, and I was just thinking to myself, he's just playing because Raya is not available, you guys. Like, he would never, his days are numbered. Arteta is the type of manager that, like, I believe some of the things that he says, but like when it comes to like situations like this, he's made his decision. You know, you don't bring in Raya the way that you did if you're not wanting to make him the number one. As soon as he came in after that international break, when we played Everton, it was finished. It was done, you guys. Like, my biggest hope on today was that Ramsdale just didn't do anything to scupper our chances of going top of the league. There is no way, especially after the way that Nick Ramsdale has been out there in the media speaking, that Ramsdale is going to get his spot back. It's just, it's not if, it's when he leaves the club, you know? And so I don't know why people are still like, it's so, whether you may not like the way it was done. I think 60-70% of you guys that don't like Raya, it's not so much that you don't like Raya, it's that you don't like the way Ramsdale was ousted out of his position. That is so fair. That is so fair, because the way that it's been done has been incredibly harsh. It's also been messy, created quite a bit of a circus, and has been the underlying narrative for Arsenal this season. Beyond Kai Havertz, there's another narrative here, which is the goalkeeper situation, right? But our defensive record has gotten better since Raya has been back there. I think once we get fully got off of his back, it'll be fine. I don't think Ramsdale has covered himself in glory in any of the games that he's played for us this season. I think we can call this one game. And just, I am open to him leaving in January just to end the circus. I'm tired of hearing about it, genuinely. And I know it's like, well, then what? We're not going to have a goalkeeper of a certain standard. Look at him. Look at him. Look at Ramsdale right now. Is he the goal? Like, his confidence is so low, it's shot. And even if he does get opportunities, let's say something happens to Raya and he has to play some games at the end of the season. Do you trust him? Would you trust him after what happened? I'd rather just get another goalkeeper, another number 2, F it, sell him for 50 million in this in the January window, move on. Because the longer this circus goes, I think the more difficult it becomes for Raya to adapt and to settle in. And the longer we're going to have to watch Ramsdale have games like this. I don't want to see Ramsdale have games like this. Like, it's uncomfortable. You know, but it's not all on Ramsdale and it's not all on Raya. Arteta has definitely decided to do something that was going to shake things up and create conversation. And anybody who truly believed that this was two number ones fighting for a position, I have something to sell you. I am going to sell you something that's going to change your entire life. It's right here in my hand, and I need you to give me $1 million for it. And I promise that whatever I give you in my hand right now is going to give you everything you need in life, because you are gullible, my friend. It was never going to happen like this. Crispy says, I like Raya. I also dislike the mess and confusion Arteta made, and not being honest. That's always been it for me. I'm fine with Raya being the number one. It's the way, I think, for sure, for a lot of people. Social Join says, this match showed that Raya's mental at a higher level. It ain't about the skill. It's about mental aspect. Raya is clear. Ionle says, I will keep saying it. If we don't get a proper left aid and attacker, we are toast. Saka can't keep carrying us. He will collapse at the end of like last season out of sheer exhaustion. Namesmith says, another reason Thierry Brazil pool. Don't know what you're saying. Johnny D says, the weird thing is we replaced Ramsdale after the first time he parried a penalty for us. Yeah. Let's see. Here to there says 50 mil. We aren't getting that. We'll be lucky to get 35 million, no leverage. Well, we shouldn't be selling him for anything less than 50 million. So he stays unless, but his price should be 50 million. Like, let's be serious. Like, he's English. Like, even Emile Smith Rowe, we shouldn't be selling him for like 20 something million. Like, let's be serious. But I get what you guys are saying about the fee, but Arsenal need to figure out a way to extract good fees for their players. We're the only team that can't do it, and we always have excuses for it. There's no excuse to sell Ramsdale for 25, 35 million like what we bought him for. That's a joke. Like, we've developed him, got him to another level, got him into the England side. Like, there are a lot of things that have happened for Ramsdale since he's been at Arsenal that cannot be just like disappear because he needs to be moved on. Felix says, last season we lost the title by playing good football. Today's 3 points are very important and will be crucial at the end of the season. I like that. That's the thing about it. It's like, we can complain till we're blue in the face about the way that we're playing, but we're top of the league right now. Now, we were top of the league at this time last season playing good football. So we're top of the league now, but will we be top of the league at the end of the season? Not really being able to open teams up, not really being able to score at will. You let me know. P-Way says Ramsdale sucks. He only had one good season last season. I think he had 2 decent seasons. Leo says nobody is buying Ramsdale for 50 million. It's not if he's world class. Before he was dropped, he made a number of howlers last season that cost us games, but people have forgotten that. I mean, we're the only club that feels like we shouldn't be able to get a certain amount for our players. Like, this is why we'll never be able to sell players properly. Ramsdale should go for nothing less than 50 million. Like, the market is what the market is. I just don't see like why Onana would go for like 40 something million and Ramsdale English would go to a Premier League side for 30 something million. I just don't see it, like why that would be the case. But I think what we do is, it's like, well, I wouldn't pay that. Well, somebody will. Somebody will if they're desperate. How much did Sanchez go from Brighton? Like 25? And he's crap. So, yeah, no, we should get more than that. Here to there says Jess, so you just hold him, let the situation fester, and leave Raya unsettled, hoping to get 50 million. We just need to move him on. Let Raya. Why is it one or the other? It's get rid of him for less or let him stay and create a problem. Why is it never Arsenal, you need to sell for the market value? Like, why don't, like, it's always one or the other. At some point, our club needs to start selling for real, even like 40 million at that would be better. But like, people, it's always one or the other. It's really annoying to me. Leo says, Jess, Ramsdale is not worth 50 million. Cole Palmer wasn't worth 45 and neither was Gordon, but they still got those fees, didn't they? Again, we're the only one who accepts these low fees because we don't think they're worth it because we don't like them, but that's not what their true value is. So I don't think he's going to be around. He should be anywhere near 30 million. At the very least, you should take 40. Onana went for like 40 million. Let's be serious. Let's go ahead and start player ratings now. Let's see. Off of the back of like Thanksgiving, I have like terrible like heartburn. So I'm feeling a little whack right now, if I'm honest with you. Not feeling the best. What we thinking? What we thinking? What we thinking? What we thinking for Mr. Ramsdale? 1 out of 10. I'll let you guys go first. Got the clean sheet. Made a couple of pretty big errors. You know, he had the one where they really should have capitalized, but Rice saved on the line. And then there was also the one where he was caught in two minds throwing it out. He did well after that, I thought, and cleaned up his playing out from the back in the second half. And so, you know, if we concede off of that, it's definitely way worse. But hey, I'll get your guys' opinions on this. I'm gonna give him probably like a 5.5. It wasn't great. PWA says 0. Johnny D says 3 out of 10. It nearly cost us 2 goals in spite of the clean sheet. PWA says 0. Amon says 5. Lucas says 4 out of 10. Better second half. Yeah, he was like at a 0 and then got up to a 4. I get you. Chosen One says 7. I get why he was nervous. Kept a clean sheet. W Rambo. I'm trying to apply the same thing that I would apply to Raya. Like Raya was making those like kind of like mistakes in possession, and then we would get like a clean sheet and he would clean it up in the second half. You know, we walk away with the W. So for me, it's a little bit like I don't want to go too hard on him because I'm trying to apply the same thing to Ramsdale that I would do for Raya. Trini says 3. Ayanle says 4 and made the whole defense shaky. Even Saliba was sweating. Michael said, did things well eventually and got the clean sheet. Just the moments weren't great. Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think I want to apply the same thing across the board that I was doing with Raya because I think it's true. I think, you know, you can make big mistakes in the game and still not earn like a 0, you know, especially if they don't capitalize on it. Saliba, interesting game for him. I don't think he was at his best. I don't think he was poor, though, if that makes sense. Like, I think he looked a little, like, tired. Maybe he was a little tired from international duty, even though he didn't play that much. But, yeah, it wasn't, like, sparkling, but it wasn't, like, awful. Like, he did Saliba things. Like, he was fine. So, I want to give him a 6.5, but I'll give him a 7. Clean sheet, like, whatever. Let's see. Crispy says 7. Trini says when a goalkeeper lacks confidence, it impacts the entire defense. Diehard Gunner says 7. Amon says 7. Adiola says 7. Ronnie Ron says Saliba 7.5. Leo says Saliba 8. Michael Kwashi says Saliba 7. Johnny D says 8 for me always. Crispy says Saliba did his thing. I agree. Trini says Saliba 7. And Lucas says some shaky moments, but good overall. I agree. I think like it wasn't his best, but it definitely wasn't anything that would warrant like a 5 or anything like that. And the day that happens, we know that it was really bad because Saliba just is so consistent. Gabriel, I feel quite similarly about. I actually think he made some really good interventions. He did a really good job on that left-hand side. I thought, you know, Brentford's press was really good. So when we were passing it back to him, sometimes he would have to like rush and clear it, but I thought he did a good job. I think Gabriel was fine. I think he was pretty similar to Saliba. It wasn't sparkling best, but it definitely like wasn't anything like horrendous. You know, I think he was fine. Diehard Gunner says Gabriel 7.5. Adiola says 7.5. Diehard Gunner says Gabriel 7.5. Michael says Gabriel 7.5. He did well defending wide. I agree. He did good on Mbomo. Like Mbomo is a good forward, so I think he did a good job. And like I actually think him and Zinchenko did a good job on Mbomo in general. I think most of his chances came off of our mistakes, and he's like their danger man, right? With Tony out. Trini says Gabriel 7, clean sheet, job done. Tawanda says 7. Johnny D says what I didn't like is he plunged again with 2 hands on him like that Newcastle goal. He learned nothing. 6.5, 10. That's not my favorite thing that Gabriel does. I do think that like in general, Arsenal for me try to manipulate the ref into giving us fouls. And sometimes it comes off and sometimes it's costly. I think what happened with Tommy against Koleosho was somewhat of that, and he got rolled and then they scored. Gabriel, I think sometimes should be stronger in some situations, just kick the ball out. But I think in general, Arsenal, it's not even just Gabriel. It's Saka, it's Odegaard, it's Gabriel Jesus. It's quite a few of our players tend to go down easier than I would like. And then when the referee doesn't give us the call, we're in trouble. And the further back you get, the more dangerous that becomes. So Gabriel, it works like 9 out of 10 times, but that one time it doesn't work, it could be insanely costly. So, but the thing is it's not something that I think is going to change. Gabriel's like 25. I don't think he's going to change it. He's been doing it the whole time. Lucas says can't decide between him and Willow who is better. I think they're pretty much the same. They do different things, but I think overall their performances were pretty similar. Zinchenko had a very good game today. As somebody who's not great at defending, I don't think defensively he was a problem at all. In fact, like I said, he made the mistake. I remember he brought the ball down kind of flamboyantly at one point, and then he tried to do something, and then he gave the ball away, and then they got the opportunity, but he was there to block it. That's the type of mentality I need from a player. I need somebody that's going to switch off from the mistake that they make and go back there and make it right. Zinchenko for me had a good game defensively where usually he would struggle. I don't think he got cooked. I think for the most part he was really good against Mbomo. And then he tried to do as much as he could attack-wise. But again, everybody that was kind of like in midfield, from midfield forward, just was pretty ineffective on the day. So I'm not sure that his coming in inside was as influential as it usually is. At home, he would have been on the right wing. He would have been on the left wing. He would have been doing all this. He was a little bit more conservative today. But I think all in all, like our midfield just wasn't doing the business. But I have to say, I do think Zinchenko had a good game. And when he's concentrating, he's really good. When he doesn't have that level of concentration at the back, he can be somewhat of a liability. So I'm going to give him a 7.5. Okay. You guys talking to each other. Lucas says some good crosses. First half 7.5 from me. Namesmith says him did bad. Sure, he did. Maybe. I don't know. James Miller says top of the league, baby. Love from Trinidad. Thank you. That's amazing. I'm so glad you're watching from Trinidad. That's amazing. Leo says Zinni was a 9.5 today. His best game for Arsenal, both defensively and offensively. Johnny D says Zinni I liked, not any end product this time, but not for lack of trying. And again, if you're going to cross the ball in 1,000 times, Zinchenko has a good cross on him, but he can pick anybody out. I just think that then you're going to have a different type of striker up there. Like, what else do you want him to do? Zitch says 7. Trini says Zinchenko 7.5. Great outing. I agree. Aman says Zinchenko handled Mbomo really well today and helped us up the pitch. Die Hard says Nan says Gabriel was fouled at Newcastle. Yeah, you guys are talking about that. Fair enough. Ionlay says 7 needs to learn to cross more. Yeah, I hear you on that. I think he actually has a good cross on him. I just think haven't been a crossing side. So and who are we crossing it to? I'm trying to understand who we're crossing it to. If we're crossing it into Trossard and Jesus, we're in trouble, even though I know that Trossard does his best to get on the ends of these. But yeah, I really like the performance from Zinchenko today. Obviously, I think he's getting back into a level of consistency that looks more like him, off of the back of probably some disappointment at the back end of last season and not being at his best at the beginning of this season. But I'm starting to see a more consistent Zinni. And I do think that has something to do with him not being exposed so frequently in games that don't suit him. So yeah, John Donut says, hey Jess, hello to you as well. Aman says, yeah, made a crucial clearance as well. Exactly. Leo says, people underestimate Zinni's goal line clearance. I agree. Lucas says, he and Rice look like they cared the most and took the responsibility at the end. So yeah, that goal line clearance, you guys, it cannot be forgotten because it was not defensively, we were really, really good. I just, yeah, there's some things to be said about how we play going forward. I don't know if this is going to end up being an unpopular opinion, but I do not want to see Tomiyasu play on the right anymore. I know, like, even though it's like he's an option there, I would almost rather do something else completely, because I just feel as though I thought Tomiyasu was quite poor today. I thought, there was this one chance that he had where we were popping it around really nicely and he just turned around like under no pressure and just kind of like dribbled out of bounds. It was really strange. And I'm just like, the angles on that side don't suit him at all. They just don't. You'd think Tomiyasu is left-footed playing on the right. I know he's ambidextrous and he can play, like he can, or whatever the word is when you do it on both feet, ambipedal. I don't know, but he can play with both feet. But it's very clear at this stage for me that on the left-hand side, the angles are a lot better for him, and on the right-hand side, they are not. And he was totally in Saka and Odegaard's way. There's no connection between the three of them. I'm actually surprised at how little Saka and Odegaard look like they've ever played together. And then you add Tommy in there, and it's just like it's a freaking train wreck. Second game in a row where I have not loved Tommy that much on that side. Like against Burnley was fine because we're at home, but Timber, I wish you were there. I wish you were there. He would solve so many problems. I think Ben will be ready to play in the next game, so we'll probably be okay. But I love Tommy, but he is significantly better on the other side. And today, I just don't think that he was good. I have to give him like a 6. I didn't like it. I really didn't. It really frustrated me a lot. I didn't like his performance at all, you guys. I'll be so real. This is probably an unpopular opinion. I can accept that. I love Tommy. Let's see. Bruno says Saka is not as scary without Ben overlapping runs. Aman says same. Tommy can't play right for us. Boy says wait for Timber to be fit and the option on the right. I cannot wait. Leo said Tommy did his job as a defender. Yeah, he did his job as a defender. He was fine defensively, but we know that our game is so much more than just what you do off the ball. It's also on the ball. And I just found this performance to be like F, like you're not good on the side. Aman says Tommy seems very uncomfortable there. I agree. Diehard Gunner says what? Tommy was solid. White should be worried. Tommy, Ben White gets straight back into the side. It's not even like, if anybody should be worried, it's more Zinchenko on the other side. I do think Tommy, I don't really think he's closing in on White in that position. Johnny D says, I agree. Tomiyasu seems a bit unnatural on the right, especially offensively. 6 out of 10. Good notice, Jess. Michael said, he's fine on the right when Ben isn't there, but it's very clear that's his worst position across the back line. Trini Gunnar says, Tomiyasu, 6.5. Good defense, good defensive effort. Needs to improve going forward. Name says, I don't know what you guys are saying. Diehard Gunner says, Odegaard was the problem, but you don't want to see it, do you? I mean, we'll get on to Odegaard. I don't necessarily feel like Odegaard is the reason why Tomiyasu gets the ball and dribbles out of bounds. So yeah, I'm not sure how it's Odegaard's fault that Tomiyasu's angles on that side don't necessarily suit him. So it's not always somebody else's fault that somebody doesn't have that good of a game. I think we always want to shift blame because you like Tommy. You probably don't like Ben White. So you probably don't like Ben White or Odegaard. So you're trying to figure out a reason why Tommy should stay in that position and why, if he didn't play well, Odegaard is the reason. Tommy just was less good than everybody else. And I just find him to be really underwhelming on the right-hand side, which is something that most people have said and is not like a weird, I think it's maybe unpopular for today because he wasn't like horrendous. But I do think if you look at his performance against Zinchenko, Gabriel, and Saliba, you will see that maybe he was the weaker link, especially in possession. So, but I feel like that's probably true. You don't like Odegaard and you don't like Ben White. So Tommy is the hero. He wasn't that great today. Mikey says Tommy's presence on the left has given Zinny competition. I agree. Leo says when Arteta first started playing Tommy on the left, Arteta was slated. So now he isn't better on the left. I didn't slate him. This is the thing. It's like you're applying things like agendas to me that don't exist. I like Tommy. I like Tommy on the right in his first season, but as we saw him more on the left, it became more obvious what position he was better in. And then also Ben White is better than him on the right. And it's not even really like that big of a competition. Tommy can sit in there, but Ben will always be the starter on that right-hand side. So you're attaching things to me that don't actually like apply to me at all. I never slandered Mikel for putting Tomiyasu on the left ever. Here to there says Tommy was solid 7 sound defending. Let's see. And Andrew says, so what if Tomiyasu dribbled out? Rashford does it quite a few times and he earns way more. I don't care, you guys. Quite frankly, I just don't think Tomiyasu was the best today. I'm not saying he was the worst player on the pitch. I'm not saying that he needs to go away. Still totally excited about his new contract. But I think Ben White is going to get his position back quite easily. And when we see Tommy next, it'll probably be on the left, which is totally fine. So yeah, I don't really care what Rashford's doing. You didn't play. Neither did you. You had a little cameo. I don't think we really need to talk about that. Let's go on to Odegaard. Thought, he did well in some circumstances, was a little off in others. Like, I'm trying to understand why it's the case that, like, it feels like everything is going so slow. And maybe it's because Odegaard is not moving as fast and things are just not connected as much as they used to be. So I don't think Odegaard had a great game. I think that the idea of Trossard and Odegaard was a lot better on paper than it was in real life. But I don't think Odegaard had his best game. I think, I could probably say, like, okay, well, maybe it's because he's just coming back. But it's something that we've seen since the beginning of the season where I just don't feel like he's as influential and he's not as like keeping it ticking like he did last season. Those little punchy balls that he used to hit to Saka in that little corridor, he's not really hitting those anymore. Something is weird between the two of them. It's like, I don't know if like the other team has shut down that spot, but you guys know what I mean. When Odegaard and Saka used to like delay, and then Saka would make that little inside run and Odegaard would slip it to him. It's like, that's gone. Like, it's disappeared. There's no connection between him and Jesus. Even the balls that he was trying to hit, like some of them were good, but some of them were short. Something's up there, so I don't think Odegaard had his best game. So I'm going to give him probably it's probably harsh, but like a 6 as well. Like I just even though we won and we got the clean sheet, I just feel like as we go forward, these are going to get worse and worse. Yeah. And so, yeah, I don't think he had a good game. Disappointing considering how excited I was for him to come back. I think a lot of people were excited for him to come back. But again, I want to go back to what I said from the beginning, is that I do find it very strange that no matter who's there, whether it's Kai, whether it's Odegaard, whether it's Trossi, whether it's anybody who plays in those attacking 8 positions, their influence is so limited on the game from a creative standpoint. They just don't get on the ball enough in the positions that make them dangerous. They pass it backwards quite a bit. They don't really take it upon themselves to do creative things. I don't know if they're afraid to lose the ball. I don't know what it is, but like, we know Odegaard is a quality player. I know I'm looking at the comments are going up and up and up. I'm sure there's people that are going to try to convince that Odegaard is just a shit player. He's definitely not. You don't have the season that you had last season, the season prior, and be crap. But there's something not quite right, and I can't quite put my finger on it, but not a great day out for him. Definitely not. Boy says, oh yeah, you guys are talking to each other. Salvatore says the bias is crazy, so it's Trossard's fault. Did I blame it on Trossard? No, I didn't. I said Trossard and Odegaard on paper was better than what it was in real life. And that Trossard and Odegaard, it doesn't matter who it is that are in those 8 positions, they're not really that influential from a creative standpoint. Did not once blame it on Trossard at all. If you guys want to go in on Odegaard, you guys can. Like, I'm just trying to add context to the fact that, like, I thought those two would cook together and it didn't quite work, but I didn't say it was because of Trossard. So you guys please get it together. Like, be for real. Leo says Odegaard was shit today and we are judging on this game. Yeah, he was not great today. Only says Odegaard 3, 1 good season. Yes, 1 season. No, he had 2 good seasons. That season we bottled top 4. He was okay. 1 good season. We call him world class. He's had 2 good seasons. O'Malley says he won 1 duel. He was very poor. He will get better, but this game wasn't it. Lucas says risky passes and wingers going at fullbacks has to be instructions to keep it safe. I kind of agree with that as well. Here to there says last season we would see all types of one-touch combinations, Saka, Odegaard, white triangle. Now we see touch, recycle. And this is the thing. It's like I feel as though like this has to be instruction. I just don't think that these players just decided one day to stop attacking. Like I just don't see it, you know. Aman says 6 is crazy. Love Odegaard, but he was a 4 today. Okay. Ronnie Ron says you are biased. You can't compare Tomiyasu and Odegaard in today's game. I don't think either of them were that great, but I don't think either of them were that bad either. Not as bad as you guys think it is. D Brown says we love you. Just take our opinions with a grain of salt. Odegaard was still shit. Fine, worst player on the pitch. Matt G says, remember this, Odegaard's first game after injury. Well, if they didn't hate Odegaard, they would think that. But, like, it's fine. I don't think Odegaard was as bad as people are making him out to seem. I just don't think he had the best game. But fair enough. And it's not excuses. Like, what excuses am I making? Like, the thing is that people will, if it's a player that you like people do the same things all the time. Like, if the system's not working for some people and, like, how can you watch every single player play in the system, no matter who it is? You guys wanted Trossard to play left 8. Did that really work? Not really. You guys wanted Jesus in front instead of Nketiah. Did that change anything? Not really. And so I wanted Jesus instead of Nketiah. I wanted Trossard to go into left 8. I want those things to, to be the choices that Arteta makes. But no matter who plays in the front 6, we look the same, So you can say it's just individuals and they're not playing well. But then why is it the case that, like, when Trossard, who's on form, plays at left 8, it doesn't really work out? How is that the case? Like, I do think it's a bigger issue. I'm not saying that Odegaard played well or anything like that, but are we really going to pretend like we think that it's not a systematic issue? But fair enough. But again, Odegaard was not great today. Matt G says, reading some of the comments in this chat, you think we lost the game and we were 12th in the league. It would be kind of difficult for me to give somebody like a 3 or a 4 or a 0 when we won the game. It's just like with Ramsdale. I didn't give him a 0. He made huge mistakes. I think I still gave him like a 6, So it would probably be the lowest that I'll give somebody considering we won the game and we kept a clean sheet. So there you go. Ronnie Run says, you can't pamper some Odegaard on a bad day. You can't criticize Havertz and Tomiyasu. Not cool. What? You guys don't make sense. It's crazy. Like, I have criticized Odegaard. It's just you guys, your version of criticize is he's fucking shit. I hate him. I want him out the team. He's never good. He's not this. He's not that. You're not going to get that from me. You didn't get that from me with Ramsdale. You didn't get that with me from Tomiyasu either. I didn't say any of them were shit. Not a single one of them. And even with Havertz, you guys were yelling at me just a couple of days ago about saying Havertz hasn't been terrible. So you guys get real for like 5 seconds. You guys are just making things up now. I just don't think Odegaard was as bad as you guys are thinking he was. And still, you guys said that Ramsdale was a 0. I didn't say Ramsdale was a 0, even though I think that he made some big mistakes. So it's just not that deep. In the end of the day, like, I'm not going to say things that I don't actually believe. Let's go with Saka. Got the assist. He always leaves with something because that's like his thing and product. He got an assist. I thought, again, like another player that just didn't look like himself. Like he just, he got wide. He had tons of people around him try to pass it backwards. I don't even know if he had a shot on goal. I think, did him or Martinelli have a shot on goal? I don't know. It's just difficult for them right now. And I feel like if Saka is marked with 3 or 4 players, there has to be somebody central that's open. And right now we're not finding those players. So for me, Saka, not his best game, but he still seems to be able to like impact the game in some like good way when he's out there. So it's tough. He got the assist, so I think I would give him a 7 because of that. Otherwise, it'd be like a 6.5. Like everybody up front was somewhere between like a 6 and like 5 and a 6, something like that, like somewhere around there. I don't know. So I give him I'll give him a 7. Dale says Saka 6.5 for the cross. Seemed he played more centrally than ever I recall. I would love to see more switching between our front three. We haven't seen that at all this season. And I'm like, would it be that like risky at the back for Saka and Jesus and Martinelli to switch positions? Like, I just feel like everybody's just like in their own lane, staying in their own spot. Saka's like really isolated from everybody else. Martinelli's really isolated from everybody else. Jesus is all the way by himself. Like, I wonder if they can't like get closer like to each other and like actually combine, because one of the things that we had last season was like those really small triangles, and we don't even have those anymore because nobody's even near each other. Ronnie Run says 7 for the assist. Charlie says nobody makes a deep run when Saka's on the ball. It's just poor. England players do it so well. Amon says Saka back post crosses are so clutch for us. I mean, the thing is like usually nobody's there. Like if it's coming from the other side, like nobody's ever there. And like I just feel like it's such like a wreck thing. Like even when I was young, like they would say always somebody needs to run to the back post. We rarely have players at the back post. So I'm really happy that Kai was there, because if he wasn't, we would have been cooked. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know what we're doing from an attacking sense. That's all I'm gonna say. I really don't. So Amon says 6.5 for Saka. Let's see. Name Smith says Jesus needs a slap. He doesn't score goals. Well, I don't know if we need to slap him, but yeah. Here to there says Saka is developing that Saka gene, pulling GA out of nowhere. Leo says Saka was poor most of the game. Amon says Saka created our 2 goals. We only scored 1. Did he create the Trossard goal? Did he create that? Michael says 7. Without the assist, it would be a 6. That's kind of how I feel as well. The funny thing about this is like he got no help from Odegaard. Is when Odegaard wasn't playing, Saka was the exact same. You guys were saying Saka was poor even when Odegaard wasn't on the pitch. So what is it? Is Odegaard holding him back, or is he like when Odegaard is not there, he was supposed to like go to another level? So why is it Odegaard's fault that Saka's not playing well? Again, you guys just said that it's not Trossard's fault that Odegaard didn't play well. So why is it Saka's fault? Like, why is it Odegaard's fault that Saka was not good? Which one is it? You guys talk out of both sides. Like, it's Saka individually had some poor touches, but the system is not really working right now from an attacking sense. And so until we accept that and not just pull out like specific people for our personal agendas, the better conversations that we'll have about things. Like, for people to blame Odegaard for Saka's performance, but then try to kill me for just even mentioning Trossard and Odegaard in the same sentence because they want me to say that Odegaard is the worst player on the planet, is so like, you know, it's talking out of both sides. You know what I mean? But I thought like Saka was supposed to go to another level when Odegaard wasn't here. He played like 3 games without Odegaard and had these same exact performances. So it's not really just about Odegaard holding Saka back. Like, it's everybody up front, no matter who it is, whether it's Kai Havertz, Odegaard, Trossard, Martinelli, Saka, Jesus, Kedia, nobody looks good. So when will we get to the point where it's not about the individuals only? Saka played how he kind of plays every single game this season. And Saka's a great player, and we don't see these performances for England. So what does that mean? You guys, let's have better conversations. Instead of just using agendas, let's go up a level here. Martinelli, again, another player that like still like probably some of the international is in his legs. I could see that. Like, I don't think that he was at his freshest, and I'm a little bitter that he gave some of his better like his energy to Brazil only for them to like be so shit, and then for him to come back to us a little like looking a little leggy. That being said, I don't think that he had the best game. But when you have 2 or 3 players on you, and I think the manager is instructing you to pass it backwards, and then for that person to fit into the box, I don't know what we expect from these players. He had 1 chance to like shoot on his left foot. He didn't do it. And then it went to Jesus and it was deflected. Like we're talking about like 1 or 2 chances a game, and we're trying to sift through to see like, you know, from an attacking standpoint, we're just not very good right now. So probably a 6 for him as well. Like, he was busy, but it just wasn't, it wasn't, it wasn't there. Like, it really wasn't. Martinelli was, if anybody can name me something that Martinelli did beyond what I was saying, because I can't even remember anything. I think he tried to get it to Saka a couple of times, like on the break, but like even our counterattacks were breaking down so easily. It was strange, But yeah, Nelly was just kind of like everyone else, Ronnie Ron says Martinelli 7 out of 10. He tried, but occasionally got doubled up. Aman says, love Nelly, but he was poor today. Boy says, Static FC, no one moves without the ball. Name Fitness says, Martinelli fitness, wow. Leo says, Martinelli was 6.5 today. Can't blame everything on the manager. I don't blame everything on the manager. I said everything from international duty to the system to, whatever else is going on, individual. I said all of that came together to create a pretty poor performance. But again, you guys don't listen. Like, I never blamed it all on Mikel Arteta. I've like literally never did that. But anybody who thinks that the system is not at least affecting them in some capacity is not watching the game. If we just want to do individuals, just do individuals. That's fine. You can do that. But I never just blamed Mikel Arteta. Never blamed Mikel Arteta fully. Johnny D says Martinelli 5 out of 10. D Brown says the pace was lacking on the counter. It seems like they have tired legs, and maybe that was just the traveling. Like, going from, it wasn't even just it wasn't just Martinelli and Jesus. Like, you watch the game between Liverpool and Man City, you could see that the players that were in South America were struggling. And even like watching like Joe Linton and Bruno G and like Enzo, you just gotta look at them and you're like, you're not quite there, are you, like, fully? So I could totally understand like why the pace wasn't there from Martinelli and like why he was a little, like, he was hanging a little bit. But I'm a little bitter that they got those energetic performances, Brazil, and like we're not getting that. But knowing Martinelli, he's like an energizer bunny. They'll put him on a charger and he'll be right back. Like, I'm not worried about Martinelli at all, to be honest. Blaze says our defenders play better than our attackers. I don't understand why. Maybe it's because of the instructions of Arteta, or maybe the players are not in good form right now. But I mean, how are they not, like, I'm watching Saka and Martinelli play for their international teams, and I'm just not seeing, like, even Trossard, I'm not seeing pro performances internationally. And I know you can't always equate international to club, but I just don't see how people can't really see that, like, all 6 of your players every single time cannot just be poor. Like, there's something there. Why is it that Martinelli and Saka consistently pass backwards? Why are we hoofing the ball into the box? Why do we slow the attack down? Those things are like instruction, so those things are a little, I don't know if it's just form. I really don't. Maybe it's a combination. I think it's a combination of all these things, right? Aman says, to be fair, the system isn't helping our attacking players. Michael says, a tough place to go under the lights. It's all about getting the points, play average, but win. All champions do this. I do think it's champions mentality to go ahead and win the game for sure. F97 says, Martinelli a 6.5 for me. Set up a decent chance for Jesus first half that got blocked. I remember that corner, but that was just really it. Confident he'll be much better versus Lonzo. I agree. I'm not worried about Martinelli at all. Ronnie Ron says, next game we should play Havertz as our striker and try Zinchenko's crosses. Jesus poor. The guy can't even score a goal. Die Hard says, the problem is not the system, it's the 6. Even though I think Rice was very good today, he just doesn't play the 6 like Partey. Attack suffers. This is why the coach is playing Jorginho there. System. Die Hard says Brentford was very good defensively today. Cryptic Dino, thank you so much for your super chat. Says people are going to criticize you and even take things out of context. You're coming across very defensive. Take it easy. No, this is just how I've always been. Like, I always go back and forth with my audience. Like, I don't know if you've ever been here before, but like, we go back and forth. We're like family here. It's a community. So if people say things to me that I don't think is actually true, I'll go back and forth with them. Like, it's fine. I think anybody that's been here before knows that this is how we communicate. And at the end of the day, I love everybody's commentary, but if you're saying things that I don't necessarily feel like I said, I'll tell you that's not what I said, or I'll correct you or whatever. And if I wasn't a woman, I don't think you feel like I'd be defensive, because I watch almost everybody on YouTube go back and forth with the people in their live shows, and it's never taken that way. So I really respect your super chat and everything, but I love my audience. I love my community. They love me. They're always here. Everybody, diehard Gunner, all these people are always here. They know I love them. But if I think they're saying things that are not true, I'm going to tell them 100%. So thank you, but I think we're good. Ionle says, for Martinelli, he was awful today. Bad crosses, can't beat the man, and takes ages to make a decision. Everybody takes a long time to make the decision, I think. And Lucas says, yeah, to be fair, Brentford were good off the ball, well organized. And the thing about Brentford is, like, it's not an easy place to go, like somebody was saying. And, like, they are very well coached. Like, every time that we played against them, except for when we beat them 3-0, they were really good. When I went to the Emirates and I watched them play, like, against us, and we drew 1-1, they were really good and probably should have scored like 2 goals, maybe even 3 in the first half. So I think that, like, we don't take into consideration that other teams just get to be good, but I think it's the frequency in which we look like we're not going to score, and we're coming up against these deep blocks, and we're kind of ponderous on the ball, which you can give Brentford credit for things, but also recognize that, like, this is something that we've come across quite often, right? So yeah, let's see. We have a couple more to do. Rice, I thought had a good game again. I do take the point that somebody said that, like, he's different than Partey, so the reason why we're not attacking is because of Partey. But equally, you have to think about the opposite part, where defensively we're not the same without Rice. Like, Partey doesn't make that goal line clearance. He doesn't. But maybe putting both of them in the side is the option. But I do think that will present some problems as well, because Rice isn't necessarily creative. He said it himself. We can wait all day long until Partey gets fit. Again, we know he's not going to play potentially until after January. And even then, like, there's rumors of him leaving. So we have to find a solution. If we don't replace him in January, then we need to find something internally. And I still feel like there's a way for our team to create more chances that's not just about one player. Like, it has to be, like, Arteta has to figure out a way with the players that he has, because these players, I think they can do it. I just don't think that they're put in the right positions. And they're being asked to do things like just pass it backwards and recycle, possession. And that's, not something that we saw that much that last season. Trossard, again, like, I just don't feel like he's doing the things that we want him to do, which is, like, get on the ball and be creative. Like, I didn't feel like he was getting on the ball a lot. And I feel like this almost every single game, that our 8s are not necessarily our most creative players. It's Martinelli and Saka getting on the ball, passing it backwards to our fullbacks, and our fullbacks are being creative. Our right back and our left back are trying to create chances and trying to progress us up the pitch. And that's just not what you want. You want to see, like, Trossard get on the ball in between the lines and turn and get a shot, or, you want to see things like that. And we're not really seeing that. So I'm not sure that I thought that Trossard had the best game. I think he's unfortunate to have that, like, that header called offside. But at the same time, like, Jesus should be putting that away, I think. So I feel like it's harsh, but I got to give him, like, maybe like a 6. Like, it just wasn't as juicy as I thought it was going to be. Seeing that lineup, it was just like, listen, this is going to be so good. Like, on paper, it felt good. But I said this on several different podcasts. I feel like whenever we play with double 10s, we actually look less creative and less attacking. And I felt that way today. He wasn't awful, but it just wasn't like that punch that I feel like we were looking for. You know what I mean? So yeah, I would give him like a 6. Boy says Trossard doesn't link up when others the way that I thought he would. All the same, he looked the most lively near the box. But again, like, there has to be some people near you. Like, I forget what game it was, but, like, it was in the second half. We played much better in the second half. I forget who it was against. And, you saw Trossard, Zinchenko, and Martinelli linking up, like, albeit, like, I think Trossard was playing through the center, but you saw those triangles on that side. But when our players received the ball today, like, there was just nobody really near them, and the only option that they have to pass was, like, backwards, and then the players in front of them weren't really moving. So he didn't link up as well as he did today, but I question, was there link up? Was there players to link up? F says Trossard was decent, but I'm a bit disappointed. Thought he cooked more than he did. Unlucky with the disallowed goal. Lucas is saying Burnley probably. Yeah, you guys remember, like, they were all there, like, linking up, and it looked really good, but it was like that disappeared today. Ronnie Ron says, look at the Sevilla game. Martinelli cooked that Sevilla right back more than 5 times and brought crosses. No one converted. This is true, but also remember, like, Arteta gave them license to do that. Martinelli said that after the game. He literally said that, like, Arteta told them to continuously attack their fullbacks. Now, if Arteta was telling them to consistently beat their fullbacks today, they would have done it, because Martinelli and Saka, like, they do what Mikel Arteta is asking them to do. So maybe Arteta was telling them to just get the ball and recycle it backwards. But I think this is by instruction. And also, like, against Sevilla, we had so much more space than we did today. Here to there says Trossard 6.5, took a few shots, should have had a goal. I think so as well. I like Trossard. I would like to see him in that left 8 position again, but I have a feeling we won't see it again. I think Arteta kind of gives him one chance in a position, and then if it doesn't immediately come off, then it's like, then now we're going to wait for Martinelli again to get injured or something, and then Trossard would get another shot, which kind of sucks. Here to there says we played so slow, deliberate, and ponderous. Could have played Jorginho out there and wouldn't have had a difference. I think it's by design. I really do. I think we did everybody except for Jesus. Listen, I knew that he was going to be like this, and maybe I'm projecting a little bit because I already kind of felt like he was going to be like this, and I didn't want him to start, but I felt like he was giving head case. Like, I thought he was giving, like, oh, I'm going to overdo things a little bit because I feel some type of way about what happened with Brazil. I think it was more than tired legs. Like, I just don't think, like, he didn't look like he was in the right headspace. He looked very frustrated very early on in the game. Like, before anything even happened, first 20 minutes, he's snatching at shots, right? And so it's a tough one with Gabriel Jesus, because I do think that he's a very talented player. I think he's one of our best players, but we haven't seen anywhere near the level of Gabriel Jesus that we saw last season. And he has had quite a few injury issues. He's coming back from international duty where he was absolutely slandered by the media, right? But I need him to finish that header. If that goes in, that's 1-0. It shouldn't have even gotten to the Trossard offside. It really shouldn't have, right? And so that's just really the case with Jesus, not how much he works hard. He does certain things. I just feel like that one chance he has to put away, and he didn't put it away. And I wanted him off the pitch a lot sooner than when Arteta actually hooked him. I was like, just put Kai up front, just put somebody else up front. Did not have a good game today. I don't know when we're going to get the best out of Gabriel Jesus, but again, just like everybody else up front, I thought he really struggled. Lucas says, I think Brazilian hate always gets to him. It's in his head. I agree. Like, and I could be projecting, like, this could just be me, like, painting a story that doesn't exist. But I do think that there's a little bit of, like, that criticism that you get. I mean, they were off of one of, like, a major loss. They're really poor right now in World Cup qualifiers, and they lost to Argentina at home. And that's like the first World Cup qualifier that they, like, ever lost at home. And so he was on the pitch when that happened, and he didn't score a goal, and he hasn't scored a goal in how many games? And then he comes back to Arsenal and he's snatching at shots and looking really frustrated early. Like, I don't know, but we need his head to be in the game, because he's one of our best players when he's on it. But listen, it's just, I don't know. It's every player that plays up front feels like they're out of form or individually not playing at their level or whatever. But it's like everyone, which is nuts, Johnny says he's one of my favorite players, but 5 out of 10. He just doesn't head the ball down as you're supposed to. Name Smith says, I like Jesus. Ronnie Run says, how the hell do Doku get a lot of space compared to Saka and Martinelli? I mean, Doku wasn't playing against a deep block. Miwa says, we should try Gabby through the middle and move Jesus to the left. Name Smith says, Arteta needs to go. He needs to go, but we're top of the league. Like, also remember that we're top of the league. So we're having first world kind of conversations right now. Dale says, Jesus, interesting fact, in the last 2 seasons, Jesus 7-headed goals, Tony 3, 4 if you count the match when VAR did not draw the offside line. Leo says, people keep writing, we need Partey back. What we need is a replacement for Partey, one that wants to play for Arsenal and isn't consistently injured. Boy says, you already know that as soon as Jesus starts scoring, he will pick up another long injury to knock him out of form again. Lucas says, I don't like Jesus on the left, better on the right. I don't like him on the wing, period, if I'm honest with you. I mean, it's kind of like Tommy, like he's serviceable on the right, but I really don't like to see him out there. I want him to play through the center, but I don't know if playing him on the wing really is going to help us. Like, look at the way our wingers are now. Like, I'm not sure that Jesus is going to make us any better there. He's an option there, but I really don't want to see that. Like, from the center, if he just played the way he did last season, I'd be pretty okay with that. But we're not even getting that version, and that version was a little frustrating because he didn't score enough goals or he wasn't clinical enough. But even like the sharpness, like receiving the ball and turning, evading pressure, creating chances, we haven't gotten that yet, but we did get it against Sevilla. But it's like, how many games? Like, I forget who said that, but like, how many games are we gonna get to him getting to that point before he gets injured again? It's tough. Leo says 6 for Gabriel Jesus. I agree. And last but not least, because we're not like, we could talk about Nketiah, but like, let's just give him like a 6, whatever. Like, he just kind of ran around, you know. But Kai Havertz, you know, again, like, as much as people said that goal that he scored in international duty probably didn't mean anything, I think it did. You know, he needs a little bit of confidence. I think Nagelsmann did a good job talking him up and talking about how he thinks he's an exceptional player. And I think he got some confidence out there, because if you actually watched the games that he played for Germany, I actually thought he was pretty good. Nothing to write home about, nothing like spectacular, but definitely not terrible. And he scored a goal. And then he scores a goal today, doing things that are just simple things, like a simple cross into the box and arrive at the back post. The amount of times that like we don't get that goal because there's just no one there is really frustrating, because it's like simple stuff, right? And this is the first time that he was like more calm and not nonchalant, but like didn't seem like he was overthinking it. He knew exactly what to do. Arrive on the back post, head it down, boom, goal. As long as you don't head it right at the goalkeeper, you're in business. I'm really happy for him. I have to be really honest. Like, I'm really happy for him, because we need this signing to work out. I know that people are like wanting to just throw it away and say it's a failure. Even if it ends up being a failure, we still want him to play well for us, or at least want to get something out of it, because that's 65 million that you're not going to be able to really get back, right? And so if we could find a way to use him that puts his best strengths out in the forefront, that works for me. But he scores the winning goal, and I couldn't be any happier. I really can't. Like, it's just, we need that to work out. Mayua says, let's not talk about Eddie. Nothing really to talk about. Here to there says 8.5 for Kai. Well done. Crispy says 9. Leo says 10 for Havertz. He came clutch today and won us the game. He also brought energy when he came on. I agree with that. Lucas says, when we signed Kai, I was expecting that back post run all the time. Crazy how long we waited for that. And he's had quite a few misses in that position too. But you have to keep hitting it to that back post. Somebody has to be there. I think it's easier for people to like hit that cross and hit it well and expect somebody to be there than, you know, having to pick out people. You know, there should always be somebody on the back post. Let's see. Leo says Havertz repaid 10 million of his 65 million price tag today. That's quite a bit. Die Hard Gunner says 7.5. I agree. I would give him probably like an 8 just to be nice, you know what I mean? Because I mean he did score the goal, right? And he wasn't out there like the whole time when everybody else was playing like booty, right? So I'm happy about it, and I'm happy about the win because listen, like as much as we're talking about how frustrated we are with certain players, Odegaard, not happy with him, not happy with Jesus, get him out, whatever. We're still top of the league despite those players not really playing that well so far this season. So of course, at some point they have to come into form, and we have to figure out a way to get the best out of them and play a little bit less with the handbrake on maybe. But I think there's a reason for that. I really do think Arteta wants us to keep it tight, not play as such attacking football that opens us up to be susceptible. And, you know, I think this is just kind of who we are. I'm coming to around to the idea that it's not about certain players coming back. I think in general, buying Declan Rice and putting him in your 6 pretty much solidifies the fact that you want to be better defensively. You know, so Arteta's made signings to make that such, you know. And so we'll see if it works. You know, I think we'll be happy to play this type of football if we win something. But if you don't, that's where the problem comes in, you know. Mayua says 9 for King Kai. Getting in at that position and losing your man is something we don't do. The easy goals, we don't score the easy goals. F97 says Kai looked good even before the goal, frustrating as he turns up in big moments. I can't lie. Problem is he had a run of games living off these moments, needs to build on it. I agree. Johnny D says when Kai stepped in, Arsenal moved from gear 0.5 to 1. Leo says now we need Saka, Odegaard, and Martinelli target passes to Havertz skull from now on. I mean, let's not recreate the wheel. Like we don't have to do anything that's like we don't have to recreate football. Sometimes it's just okay to be direct. And if you have somebody that's good in the air, aerially, like tall player that can get on the end of crosses, then when he's in, hit it to his head on the back post. Like don't avoid him. You know what I mean? So yeah, I like that. The problem that I feel like we have is that that's starting to become a little bit more of a pattern is that we have players that we aren't totally keen on or aren't necessarily starters that come in and do things off the bench, and then we want them to play more and they don't do it from the start, i.e. Fabio Vieira, i.e. Kai Havertz, and maybe even a little bit of Trossard sometimes. So is he a super sub? Is he somebody that we should just use off the bench? His best moments have probably come maybe off of the bench. But we need some players that can give us something from the start, that can play well from the start. So everybody can't be a super sub, you know, everybody can't be a super sub. So yeah, Johnny D says there is another benefit, Jess, for not playing that scintillating football. Our wingers won't drop dead by the end of the season. Arteta knows his stuff. Been thinking about that as well too. Like maybe we don't want to run ourselves into the ground like we did last season. We definitely don't press the way we did last season. We're definitely not running as much as we are last season. We're not playing with as much energy. We kind of look like we're playing at like about 70, 65, 70%. That might be all by design. I have a very hard, like Arteta is so intricate and so detailed in everything that he does. I have a hard time believing that he created this situation and it's not exactly what he wanted, or he didn't anticipate things being this way. Whether or not it works, that's TBD. You know, whether or not we get to February, March, and we can switch it on and be a lot more, you know, whatever. But so far we're top of the league. So what can we really say, you know? Miwa says I'd rather we peak in February and March than early. We peaked early last season and lost steam when it mattered the most. Dale says for better or for worse, I think we already seeing how Havertz will help the team. Give Odegaard a day off in easier matches and come off the bench to close matches or to give us a plan B. Osman says we need to be more direct. That's why we missed Partey. Rice in the last 15 minutes was more direct, got the goal. Fair enough. Leo says, I don't necessarily want Havertz to play more. I need him as a super sub. Boy says Havertz is best starter. The team runs more enthusiastically when he's in possession on the counter. Swear down. I don't know. Is that true? Saxo Beat says we need to keep playing like that. No one has to worry. Not a chance to win the league again. And Lucas says there was a shot where Saka and Odie were holding their knees, to be fair, not if conservative system helps the stamina. So, Yeah, we'll see. We'll see how things go. I'll give Kai Havertz an 8 for today. And overall, like, I think you got to give Mikel Arteta probably, what do you want to give Mikel Arteta? Because literally a minute before Kai Havertz scores, like, it's as bad as it could be on the timeline. Like, seriously, like, it's as bad as it could be on the timeline. So I don't want to like discount the way that we played, but equally, like, he got this. You could say that he got the subs right. This Kai Havertz comes on and wins. So I feel like I want to give Mikel Arteta like a 7, a 7 or 8. It wasn't amazing, but it's a difficult away ground to go to right after international break, and I've seen us get smacked up after an international break before. So many times, like so many times. So I'm happy to take the 1-0 100%. And Sareda, thank you so much for your super chat. Says that Germany goal was a booster for Kai. I totally agree with you 110%. So there's 186 of you guys in here still with me. I really appreciate you guys chit-chatting with me. Again, for people that are like, oh my gosh, like you're so da-da-da-da. This is just how we do here. I love absolutely everybody in this chat because they're always here and they know if I get rattled, I'll be fine. They know how to press my buttons. They know Odegaard is one of my buttons. It's fine. We're good here. We will do something tomorrow. I'll go live tomorrow because I think we'll need to talk about the overall picture again. So live tomorrow and then a Patreon pod on Monday. Hopefully that sounds good to you guys. I don't know if you guys are around on Sundays, but I want to do something to make up for not doing something on Friday. So hopefully you guys are around and we can chit chat some more. But I love you guys. You guys are the best. Get in the comment section after and let me know what you guys are thinking. And I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Let's say after the games. We'll talk. All right. Love you guys.